Today I wanted to cover the rule changes that are going to come into effect with the release of Smash Up Marvel, whenever that might be. A big shout out to Duckmanwin on Facebook for describing the changes, it was very helpful. Just one caveat, while I believe I have a solid grasp of the rules of the game, I'm not going to state that I'm some kind of expert and that my word is gospel. I may have made a mistake in this video, I don't believe I have, but in any case I do encourage you to read the new rulebook, which will be in the description down below. Be aware that these rules will apply to the game of Smash Up, not just Marvel Smash Up. I'm going to be highlighting the rule changes first and then providing my thoughts on the changes at the end of the video. We'll fly through the easy ones. Minions are not minions in Smash Up Marvel, they're characters. Characters are synonymous with minions, they mean and function exactly the same way, it's just a different word. Play on, so play on base or play on minion, has been replaced with the word modifier in Marvel Smash Up. Again, it's functionally the same and modifiers should be treated as play on cards and vice versa when playing with the other sets. And that's the same for characters and minions. The keyword move now encompasses both characters and modifiers rather than just characters. Pre-Marvel Smash Up, move was used when moving minions from one base to another, and transfer was used for play on minions or play on base actions. Now the word move covers both. With the easy ones out of the way, let's move into the more substantial rule changes. Firstly, let's start with extra cards in Phase 2. Now the bigger, geekier rulebook had a specific section on extra cards, as you can see, and the important bit is towards the bottom where it says that extra cards must be played immediately if the extra card play refers to a specific card, such as the Neophyte. Another part of the ability follows the extra play, such as Crack of Dusk, or if the extra card is granted outside of Phase 2, or the play cards phase. As of Marvel Smash Up though, Condition 1 and 3 remain exactly the same, but Condition 2 has changed. You no longer have to play extra cards if another part of the ability follows the extra play, unless the later part of the ability depends on the playing of the card, and it gives the example there of a +1 power counter. So for example, Crack of Dusk, because the playing of the power counter depends on the playing of the extra card, Crack of Dusk must be played immediately. However, now if we look at Microbot Reclaimer, the additional text is not dependent on the extra minion play, so this helps to clarify that the extra minion play from Microbot Reclaimer does not need to be played immediately. The second major change now is that the resolution order of trigger abilities is no longer cards in play first, then cards in hand. It's now all mandatory cards in play first, then going around the table. Each player chooses to play or invoke an optional ability in hand or in play. So what is a mandatory card? Well, they're cards in play that do not say may, or they're cards in play that say each player may. So just to go over that again, previously when a card entered play and triggered other cards, you'd resolve the card just played, finish resolving any other cards that are in the middle of resolving, resolve any cards in play that are triggered by cards just played, then play and resolve any cards in player's hands that are triggered by the card just played. Now, you resolve the card just played, resolve any mandatory cards in play, remember that these cards are cards that don't say may or that they say each player may, then you can resolve any optional cards, and these are cards in play that say a single player may or specials in player's hands. There's also a clarification to this rule which is again new. Now, if while resolving one of these optional card abilities, it allows a card with a mandatory ongoing or special ability to enter play, you immediately resolve the mandatory card before moving on to the next player. If a base is scoring for instance and it's my turn to play an optional ability, and I play Hidden Ninja to play Pack Alpha from my hand, because Pack Alpha doesn't say you may, then it is a mandatory special and it has to be resolved before moving on to the next player. For the final big rule change, the Witness Rule is now an official rule in Smash Up. For those of you who don't know what the Witness Rule is, it basically means that in order to respond to a trigger, or interact with or be affected by a card that's just been played, the original card needs to already be in play to witness said card being played, and it needs to still be in play by the time that the card that's just been played finishes resolving. Now Smash Up to this point doesn't have a Witness Rule. Card interactions are determined on a case-by-case basis based on the card resolution order, as well as referencing the specific, relevant detailed section in the bigger geekier rulebook. For the most part, cards play out as they should, and there often isn't a need to reference the rules. However, there are some instances, such as Gorgodzola gaining a power counter after having been played by Tiny Priestesses, that do lead people to question how that could possibly be the case, as Gorgodzola didn't actually witness the Tiny Priestesses being played. While I completely sympathise and would prefer a Witness Rule, which we now have, the Gorgodzola example is explained with the rules as they are set out in the rulebook. We resolve the card just played, which is Tiny Priestesses. Part of the resolution of that card was to play or move Gorgodzola to the same base as the Tiny Priestesses. We now need to finish resolving cards that are in the middle of resolving. Because Gorgodzola's ability uses the word after, we now need to take a look at the after keyword as well as the triggered and tagged abilities section of the rulebook. After states that we need to resolve X completely, which in this case is the playing of the Tiny Priestesses, before immediately doing Y, which in this case is giving Gorgonzola a power counter. The triggered and tagged abilities section states that abilities can trigger at one point in time but take effect later. In this example, Gorgonzola doesn't need to witness Tiny Priestesses being played, because Gorgonzola was played or moved to that base during the resolution of Tiny Priestesses, and because Gorgonzola uses the word after, it takes effect immediately after that happens. It would, however, make a lot more sense to give Gorgonzola when rather than after. Now, there are a couple of clarifications to the witness rule introduced in Smash Up Marvel. Normally, in order to witness another card being played, the card already in play would need to still be in play by the time that the card being played is resolved. The exception is when the trigger itself makes the card go out of play. So think Secret Agent of the Super Spies. If I play Beam Up to remove Secret Agent from play, because the trigger, which is Beam Up, made Secret Agent go out of play, the player of Beam Up would still need to discard a card. Now, the exception to the exception is if the trigger card allows another card to be played which subsequently removes the card being triggered from play before the original card finishes resolving. So sticking with Secret Agent, if my opponent plays Hidden Ninja to play Supreme Overlord, returning Secret Agent to hand, then my opponent wouldn't need to discard a card because Supreme Overlord was able to remove Secret Agent from play before Hidden Ninja fully resolved. And there we have it. Those are all the major rule changes coming into effect with the release of Smash Up Marvel, whenever that might be. I actually think the rule changes are great. They make a lot of sense and they just help to tidy up a lot of those inconsistencies and the how and why does this resolve the way it does sort of questions, particularly for newer players or players who are coming over from other card games. And I actually really like characters and modifiers as well. I just wish it was that way from the very start. I can completely understand why people feel it's an unnecessary change after 7 years and 74 factions of minions and play on. My only gripe though with these rule changes is that it says in the rulebook that Smash Up Marvel is a standalone game. It feels really strange to me that changes are being made here that are being applied to the mainline game, when actually some people may never buy Smash Up Marvel or have any knowledge of it at all, but changes being made here are affecting their copy of the game. Now, the obvious thing to do would just be not to play with the rule changes if you decide not to buy Smash Up Marvel. But what happens if you get some friends over and you try and argue that Gorgonzola gets a power counter and your friends who bought Smash Up Marvel say that it doesn't anymore because Gorgonzola wasn't in play to witness Tiny Priestesses being played? Imagine this, you have the mainline Catan games. With the release of the standalone Game of Thrones Catan, there are some new rules that are brought in, and it's decided that those rule changes will also affect the mainline Catan series. Now, I get that that example isn't a perfect comparison because you can actually mix Smash Up Marvel in with the rest of the game, whereas you can't really do that with Catan, but it doesn't fit right with me. Anyway, those are the main rule changes that will be coming with Smash Up Marvel. Once again, a big thank you to Duckman Win for detailing these changes. What do you think of the new rules and clarifications? Are you comfortable with Smash Up Marvel rule changes affecting the rest of Smash Up? Let me know down in the comments below, and with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.